Hey everybody, Zeal Brothers here with another video. This one is about the movie Don't Look Up, which is supposed to be some kind of satirical comedy about a comet that's supposed to strike the world, and it's featuring Jennifer Lawrence and Leo DiCaprio, and it's supposed to be about basically giving this take about how even though you can give people facts and give people reality, the political world, the media, the popular culture, people will not hear the warning. And the movie's supposed to point us towards climate change, right? So we can see the changes of the climate, and you can see how that's moving towards catastrophe and how we should react to that. Let's just move it away from climate change. And the reason I'm gonna move it away is because I don't really believe that climate change is as catastrophic as people say it is. If you look at the stats, the data, you look at the facts on the matter, it appears to me that climate has always changed. You look at something like the Sahara Desert. That wasn't always a desert region, especially if you look at history. You look at the Middle East. A lot of us associate the Middle East with strictly desert. But when you look at it historically, it was not known as such, which means that the climate had to have changed at some point. If you look at the fact that we had an ice age and now we're not in an ice age, that means that the earth has been warming for a while, right? So a long trend, we will see warming, and it may not necessarily be brought about by man-made things. The other problem with the climate change argument is it supposes that we're going to still be doing the same things that we're doing now. So, for example, let's say that you're talking about using fossil fuels. It could be in 20 years that people will be telling their kids, man, back in the day, we used to use gas for our cars. Now we use electricity. And it is not to necessarily say that using electricity is better for the environment or not, but it's simply to say that what we're doing now is not static. Human civilization, human economy is dynamic. It doesn't stay the same. So I don't necessarily buy all the arguments about climate change, but I will say this. I think that films like this do speak to some truths in a sense that in a biblical way, we can point out warnings and dire things that we see in society, and people will miss it. One of those things that we're seeing is how the lack of focus on the crime issue and actually trying to solve the issues at home is producing a pandemic of violence. So single parent households, sexual assault, kids who go to school and simply do not care. These are the things that we see, and we see those because we have single parent households. And where do single parent households come from? They come from sexual immorality. People who are having sex outside of marriage causes this. And people don't want to speak on this because they don't want to step on anybody's toes. And the problem is that a lot of people have done this. Let's just be real. The vast majority of people have had sex outside of marriage. And so if you condemn it, you know that you're going to be by the facts. You're going to be saying an unpopular view because most people will have done what you said. But the problem is the Bible says all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. I really don't have no problem saying something that most people do is wrong because it's wrong. If it's wrong, it's wrong. And the truth of the matter is that when we engage in sex outside of marriage, we cause problems. One of the problems are unwanted pregnancies, right? And you can deal with that in a variety of ways. One way people deal is they try to kill the child. That's what they call abortion, right? Killing a child. The other way they try to deal with it is simply pretending that having a child by yourself is okay. So forget the man. We just gonna have a child all by ourselves. I can do bad by myself, some women say, or some women even go as far as to say I can be mother and father. Look at the stats, look at the data. You could tell they don't do a very good job doing both. It's pretty much proven that a child needs both parents to have the best chance of success. In our society, we have kind of looked past those warnings. We've looked past the warning of weak men, right? So we have a lot of men in our societies who are refusing to stand up and just stand on their square and say, hey, this is the way that it's going to be in my house. We have a lot of ladies who don't want to submit to their husbands. We got a lot of basically couples who want to have separate bank accounts, separate this, separate that, but then want to claim that they're one. We have schools that don't allow prayer. We have a culture that doesn't really penalize lying, right? So we got a political class that promotes lying to the extent that some people will even say he's a good liar or he's really good at this, meaning he can get away with his lies. And so when you look at all these things that to me are obvious warning signs of a culture that is on the decline, people are looking and they say, don't look up. And the truth of the matter is, when people say don't look up, what are they really not looking at? They're not looking at God. They don't want to see a moral clarity in this world. They don't want to see black and white. They don't want to see the fact that a lot of the things that they are pushing are against the principles that we see in rational religion. So you go to somewhere like Australia, and you'll see that people are basically being put in concentration camps because they get a disease that's just a little bit worse than the flu. And we don't want to put that and say, you know what, government is out of place for doing that. And why are they out of place? See, if the rights for the human being come from humans, then the government is not out of place. But if the rights are inherent and given by God, then governments are out of place for treating humans in that way. China is out of place for treating the Muslims as a slave labor. Saudi Arabia could be out of place with how they treat women. The UAE could be out of place with how they treat rape cases, etc. So I think Don't Look Up is a good analogy more for the moral impact of the things that we're doing now and how they will affect our culture in the future. But hey, give me some comments, give me some feedback. Let me know what you feel, because Don't Look Up to me says way more about the culture than it does about our environment.